Welcome to Lost Girl Therapy. Here's part two. If you are somebody who is in a mental health counseling program and you are kind of feeling overwhelmed about if you can do this work. When our self-worth becomes tied to our practice as a therapist, we can get really lost in the sauce about how we feel about ourselves and our ability to do this job. The reason I'm talking about this is because this week I had a session pretty early on, like Monday, and it essentially was a session that just didn't go that well. It was a session that I came out of and I was like, I truly don't think that I was effective. I don't think that I listened to the client. I just don't know where my focus was. And then I noticed over the last 3 days that I've just been accumulating senses of self-doubt. I've kind of been clocking in different sessions and coming in with like a negative narrative about how I do things that is not super healthy to showing up as your best self in session. And it is very easy to fall into that mindset that says like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why am I doing this? I don't think I can do this. Now, I'm not saying that we should swing to the opposite end of the spectrum, which is like, I am so great at everything. I don't need any help. I don't need any supervision. I don't need any guidance. But you have to not fall into the pit of, I can't do this work. The skill sets of a clinician, yes, there is the clinical requirements, but then there's also the inner knowing that somehow on some level you are able to weather the storms no matter what they are. Whether that is a client who shows up and is deeply grieving, a client that shows up and is upset with you, if you are finding it challenging to work with a certain supervisor or you are feeling burnt out by the system, finding a way to weather those storms becomes the difference between you burning out within your first 2 years of work or you building a career. And burnout is very real. I kind of just ignored it. I was somebody who came from a high-paced career before going back to school. So when I got out of grad school, I was like, I'm seeing 36 clients a week. It didn't matter to me that it was exhausting or the fact that I barely had time to eat a snack and I skipped lunch and I never drank water and I just kept going and going and going. I was hell-bent on seeing the most clients I could in the most amount of time in order to just get things moving. And in my mind, I wanted to get as much clinical skill sets as I could. The problem is that I was not taking care of myself. And self-care is something that becomes so important because when you begin fueling your own self-care, when you begin looking into am I hydrated? Am I eating enough? Am I sleeping enough? It changes the way that you show up in session. It also changes your ability to set boundaries and decide in what environment you want to work in. Not every environment needs to be so tense, so pressure-filled that you feel exhausted or hurt or dejected at the end of the day. You have the ability to design a different version of life, and that's not really something that graduate programs talk about. In my program, it was really promoted that we needed to do a certain amount of work. Private practice was not even discussed. But I had to learn how to set effective boundaries and be very specific about where I wanted to work, how I wanted to work, and why I wanted to work that way. Some of it was preference, but the majority of it was I'm my better self when I'm not working until 9:30 at night, or I am not taking bare minimum pay because I need to afford to live. So finding the confidence in being able to say, this is what I need, and then this is what I want, can mean the difference between you burning out very quickly in your career or you gaining confidence and finding a niche interest, especially in the broad range of mental health topics, where you can explore what it means to become the clinician that you've always wanted to be.